Fabric. I purchased this lovely little piece of fabric today. It's a testament to my godliness of the thrift store. Last week I went and it was $14.91. I didn't want to pay that much. I decided to go back today and see if maybe it was on sale. What I found was that there was no tag. I didn't pull off the tag because that is morally wrong. I am somewhat of a Christ-like figure when it comes to thrift stores. I worked at a thrift store for 4 years. I'm not the type to steal. But the tag was gone. When I went up to the counter to ask the lovely young lady, "Excuse me, ma'am, may I inquire about the price of this here item?" She said to me, "I don't know, how about $4? To which I said, okay. I exchanged $4 for this good. And that is indeed how transactions work. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk on capitalism. Anyway, the reason I wanted this is I have a plan. There's a jacket that I saw on Instagram from a wonderful artist called Schwenk. I think that's how I pronounce it. I don't know. I'm gonna put his information here and also the picture of the garment. Ta-da! The moment I saw that jacket, I knew. I needed it. I desired it more than anything else. I needed my body to be wrapped in that Navajo style print. I think it's Navajo, honestly, I don't really know. And so when I spotted this here curtain at a lovely thrift establishment that I've been going to for years, I knew it was time. Today was the day when I would fulfill my fashion dreams and become the Vivian Westwood level of fashion god that I knew I was destined to become. So I'm gonna make a jacket, and I'm gonna have to learn how to dye it black in a gradient, like the picture. So we'll see how that goes. Come on this journey with me, starting now. This is the pattern I will be using. This used to be a button-up short sleeve shirt. It didn't used to be. This is paper. I reverse engineered a button-up shirt, which is a fancy way of saying I cut all the pieces out and then traced it onto some butcher paper. And here we have that. I may have forgotten to film myself cutting out pieces, so here's a reenactment. When I'm working with patterned fabrics, I like to make sure the opposite pieces are symmetrical because 4 out of 5 doctors agree that symmetry is pretty for some reason. I usually flip the original piece over and try and match it up on the fabric as best as I can, and then cut it out. Now, I realized I didn't get a shot of all the pieces laid out like I usually do, so here's a diagram of what those pieces look like with a drawing of me for scale. Some people, okay, one person, have asked me to make an OnlyFans account, which I'm not going to do, so this is the closest you're going to get. Also, the sleeves are not in this diagram, but don't worry, they will be covered in a forthcoming part of the video. So after cutting the pattern out, I am left with this strip of fabric to make sleeves with. I have this sleeve pattern, and this is specifically for the button-up shirt. Obviously, this will not work for a coat. I mean, I suppose it could if I had very hairy arms, which, okay, granted, but I'm talking like bear arms, not you know, my type of bear. So I think what will work is if I reverse engineer sleeves from another jacket. This one. I need to figure out how to make these sleeves from this jacket without taking it apart, because although I have a terrible habit of taking apart clothing that I actually like in order to get a pattern from it, this is not one of them. This is one of the few articles of clothing that I purchased new. And I don't buy anything new. This shirt wasn't new. I don't know what WW means. For all I know, it could be for a group called Worst Witches. War with Wordsburg. I don't know, but I like the shirt. That's not, okay, we're off track. So I'm gonna take some time, and I might not film this because that's gonna be a lot of footage of me being confused, so I'll see you in a minute.
A few moments later.
So I came up with a pattern. This is one piece. I don't know where the other one went. I lost it already. So we have a pattern which looks something like this. Ta-da. And other side, display, smile. And that's how you be a YouTuber. Now, because I didn't film the making of this, I will show you a brief reenactment now. So you just gotta measure it, and then you gotta measure it again, and then you gotta cut a piece out, and then once you cut... So this is what it should look like when it's done. Kind of like a plane being built. Like, here's the body, here's the wing, like the Wright brothers' first design. We're cutting out pieces again, but I don't think I have to go through how to do that again in this video, so instead, here's a story. There was a kid who used to come to my hometown every summer, and he rode a unicycle everywhere he went. Some of my friends would steal his unicycle and throw it in a tree, and I wish I could tell that kid now that I thought his unicycle was cool. Oh, but I actually do need to tell you about this part. Cut out all of the lining pieces, which is, you know, very simple, just cut them out. I guess it really wasn't that important seeing that you can see what's happening on screen right now, so just ignore this part of the video. Unless you were the unicycle kid, in which case I want you to know you're really cool. So as I'm editing this, something terrible has happened. Safety pins are great. They're essentially the only thing holding my life together at this point. But I drop them, no joke, at least twice a week. And I wonder if it's even worth it to pick them up at this point. Also, yes, those are stuffed animals, which I am making for Christmas, and yes, I know Christmas was a while ago. But in my opinion, Christmas is eternal because Christ is eternal, so take that, you heathens. Okay, back to the video. Now is the time where we get to sew all of our pieces together. So we're gonna sew up the outer bodice and the inner lining separately, but we're not going to attach them just yet because we still have to dye the fabric. Oh, hi, welcome to the Jody Advice Corner, where I'm not in a corner and I give bad advice. So here's the deal. I am now sewing up all around the sleeve. It's the part that looks like a little mouth. So I have the jacket inside out, and what I'm going to do, as you see, I have these open ends. I don't know why I like to make my costumes talk, I just feel like giving them a voice of their own. I'd like to leave these open as I'm sewing around the edge of the sleeve. I do this because I might want to close them up like so that we have a finished seam and it won't fray. I just learned what finished seams were the other week. And frankly, I feel aggressed upon by the whole idea of them. I think my chaotic nature tends to lead me towards paths of chaos. Therefore, chaotic edges just speak to me on a holy level. If you've seen any glimpse of my house, you know chaos reigns. I sound like the fox in Antichrist. Chaos reigns. So, back to the sewing. What I'm going to do is as I hit these edges, these exposed little edges while I'm sewing around the edge, I'm going to stop. So for example, look at me being a little seamster. Sewing, 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 sewing. Stop. Flip it over and start again on this side just to leave these flappies flapping. So something happened. Now let me tell you a little story. I grew up in Oregon where it snows roughly 90% of the year. And then I moved to Texas where they legally banned snow in 1925. So every time it snows, that's literally the only thing that is going to consume my day. I'm gonna sit with a hot cup of tea. I don't even drink tea. I have a specific sweater for this occasion. And I go, as I stare out the window into the snow. Sometimes I think, oh, that was a bad idea. Sometimes I play old Scandinavian folk music and pretend I'm in the old country. Oh, this is weird. Look at this. That's a palm tree. That's a palm tree covered in snow. It's like Chewbacca on Endor. It makes me uncomfortable. Yeah, needless to say, I miss snow a lot, so if anyone wants to go halvesies on a one-room dirt floor cabin in the heart of the Siberian tundra and dance around in Elizabethan gowns under the Aurora Borealis until we die from eventual starvation, let me know. So I have a mess-up cut piece that I'm going to test this with, and I have my bucket here. So I think my plan is to put some dye in, mix it around, and then dip it, and then continually, why can I not say this word? And then continually add dye until I have achieved the right gradient. So let's test this baby out. I'm just letting you know now, I had the temperature at 140, I put the salt in, I put the laundry detergent in, and it still did not work. You are a liar. Rit dye. Now remember to always handle your fabric gently and gingerly, because it is often very delicate. So it's now been sitting and drying. It's not dried yet, but it's looking kind of pretty good, actually. There's a nice gradient. Oh, wait a minute. Oh. Okay, yeah, that was the wrong side. Well, that changes things. So it appears the dyeing has not worked as expected. Now, I could still dye it and get a little bit of darkness on top, or I could ignore it and have a jacket that's all red and orange and earth tone. I'm gonna give it a day to think about it, and we'll see how this turns out.
A few moments later.
It's been 30 seconds, I'm gonna do it. Okay, so before everyone goes crazy in the comments saying, that's the wrong dye, you're not using the right dye for synthetic material. I know. So I purchased some on a very popular online site, www.amazon.com. The one where you can buy and sell things, not the one where you learn all about the Amazon rainforest. And what I found out was that I needed a giant pot to boil this in so that I could dye my fabric. So I went to the thrift store, I found this pot, which is great. Problem is, they put a bunch of tape on it. And I can't peel it off without getting all of this stuff on it. But luckily we have something to fix that. Goo Gone. And if it will work on my ex-boyfriend, it should work on this. It worked. I also found this at the thrift store, but I did not buy it even though it made me look foxy. You're welcome. Oh, and this dress that I really loved. Okay, we're gonna do this. So essentially I have to keep this at, sorry, wine. So essentially I have to keep this at 200 degrees Fahrenheit or something like that boiling it while I'm dyeing. Now, because I'm doing a radiant dye, that's not the right word, gradient dye, I went to school. I'm going to essentially have to dip it in and pull it back out over and over. My arm looks so weird. I'm gonna have to dip it in and pull it out over and over and over again until it's done. So that'll take about 30 minutes. I'll see you then. Yes, this part was quite tedious, and I would recommend wearing gloves. Oh, that was my roommate getting a cutting board. I would recommend wearing gloves, but not like the rubber gloves, like actual heat gloves that you'd use in welding or something, because that hurt. Okay, so I went through a slight panic moment where I saw on the jacket that two pieces had seemed to meld together, and I was wondering if there was maybe glue on the back of this fabric that I had overlooked. But then I remembered that I sewed some of the pieces together to make a garment, so I think we're in the clear. The dye did not turn out too terrible. I am actually impressed with this. It's not nearly as dark as I wanted it to be, but I'll just have to accept that I am not nearly as good as I thought I was when I went into this. I'll never accept that. I do like that there's just a differentiation throughout the pattern. I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm willing to look stupid on camera. It just breaks up that pattern because that was a lot of, you know, red and orange and earth tone. Before I put on my lining, I finished all my seams. That makes it sound like I'm eating a meal. Jody, did you finish your seams? You can't have dessert until you've finished all your seams, but I digress. Finish sewing your seams and then sew the lining onto the front bodice. I like to sew a line around the edge on top of the garment as well. This is something that I'll typically do to avoid ironing because hot metal scares me. Oh, I forgot. I also added pockets, which you can put a bunch of stuff in, and I think that's really neat, and I'm really proud of my invention. Thank you.